Welcome to the Bear County Master Gardener YouTube channel. We are certified master gardeners in the state of Texas. Our certification is through Texas A&M University in College Station. We are part of the Texas Master Gardener Association, and we are part of the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. We'd like to welcome you to our YouTube channel, All Things Gardening. Earthkind. Originally, this was going to be given at the April brown bag. And so since we had to cancel it because of the COVID virus, I recorded it. And I just didn't like the way it turned out. It was an hour long of just babbling with slides. So I scratched everything, went back to the beginning, and regrouped it. Earthkind is really a program by A&M, and I'll go into it here in a little bit. It has 7 concepts behind it, and I regrouped it into 5 different presentations. It was interesting. As I was doing it, I was reminded of a visit I had with a gentleman years ago. I was sitting in his house, and he said, "I want you to look around this room and tell me what you see." And I said, "Oh, it's a room." He said, "There has never been a crack in any of the walls in this house." Well, that caught my attention because I knew where he was located. And I said, "Why is that?" He says, "Because of the concrete." This guy spent his life in concrete, and he had a special formulation for concrete that was such that his house never had a crack. That's the story he told me. So as I was putting together this Earthkind presentation, it dawned on me the Earthkind is like concrete. If you get the concrete right, you're not going to have any cracks. If you follow these Earthkind principles, and today we'll cover 2 of them, then you will not have any cracks, so metaphorically speak, in your garden. I also see Earthkind as this inner wheel right here, and this is gardening. And it talks, and Earthkind has to do with the soil, has to do with compost and mulch, has to do with selecting plants using Texas superstars, being efficient with our water use, using drip irrigation, collecting rainwater, hydrozoning our plants, learning how to manage our weeds and our pests effectively, using a pyramid scheme on how to control pests and insects, and then landscaping our yards more efficiently. So here's the definition. Earthkind focuses on conserving and protecting natural resources through the use of environmentally friendly practices to create beautiful, easy care landscapes. And my box is kind of cutting off part of my definition, as well as vegetable gardens and fruit plantings. Earthkind uses both synthetic and organic and is based on decades of research. If you're somewhere around my age, I'm 32, back in the 50s and 60s, this could have been my house. We had some sort of combination Bermuda, St. Augustine yard. We all grew Arizona ash trees because they were cheap as $3.98. You could have yourself a 10-foot tree. If you bought an oak tree, it was like $9.98 for a 3-foot tree. And a lot of these people tried to recreate home. They came from all over the country. They came from California and Florida and Indiana, and they tried to recreate their home here in South Texas. And every few years, we got a load of dirt, which is what we called it. We got a load of dirt brought to the house. It's usually about every 3 to 5 years, and we'd spread that dirt. And then the years in between, we're picking out rocks and weeds because there's absolutely no quality control. Then in the 80s, they came out with this thing called xeriscaping, which unfortunately got the moniker xeroscaping. And the idea behind xeriscaping became an idea of nothing more than rocks, and cactus. But somewhere, and then ultimately, this is your ultimate xeriscape yard. That grass, if you're curious, is called Astroturfia artificialis, which I made up. It's just astroturf. And even that has problems of its own, but that's one way you can xeriscape your yard, is to put rocks and lawn carpet. But also in the 1980s, there was a movement called Earthkind that started with Steve George, Jerry Parsons, and Roland Roberts. And in the 2000s, it became trademarked by Texas A&M and included Dr. Welsh and Dr. Wilkerson. This is from the gardens up in McKinney, Texas, and this is their Earthkind training gardens. Now these plants, and it'll be in the second half of our presentation. These plants were planted in good soil. They're watered to get established, and they are not watered. They are not. The only thing they do is they cut them back when in the springtime. Other than that, these plants are not watered. No artificial water, no additional water or supplemental water given to these plants. This is my neighbor's house, and I told him I'd be using it. This is xeriscaping. He uses native and well-adapted plants in his yard. He does not water his yard whatsoever. This is one on our on our walk out in Bronze Station. I asked if I could take pictures of the yard, and they said yes. Interesting combination of rock, some succulent grass, and they do have turf grass over here, appropriate in the right places. And so this is another type of Earthkind landscaping, which we'll get to. So the Earthkind basics. It starts with the soil, select the correct plant, put in the correct location, using water efficiently, integrating a way of taking care of pests and weeds to minimize the use of synthetic chemicals, and designing your landscape in a way that really conserves on energy and water. But it all starts with the soil, and that's where we'll be for the first few minutes. It comes to three things: understanding our soil, improving our soil, and protecting our soil. This is I'm renovating my yard, and this is interesting. As I was doing this, this is the actually soil being made. Make sure this is off. Yeah. This is soil being made as I pulled off the honeysuckle that had been growing there. This is limestone rock that has been weathered over the years, and as it breaks down, this is how soil is made, from rock, from weathered rock. The roots have broken it up, the rain has beat it down, and that actually is pretty decent soil. I filtered through some of it, and I have it at the side of my house, and I'm using it where I need to. For Bexar County, far south Bexar County, which is actually, I'm going to modify that, more in the Somerset area, we have a sandy clay soil. And the important thing is it's sandy clay. Most of Bexar County is this Houston black, or because of this smectite clay in the middle. They call it, some kind of call it a gumbo clay soil. In the far north part of Bexar County is a good soil. It's a dolomite soil. There's just not very much of it. So here are some pictures of the soils that I've collected around our county. Here you have this red sandy clay soil from Somerset, contrasting with the Houston black. And this is that nice, beautiful brown Edwards Plateau soil that's just awfully thin. This is interesting. This is far south, straight south Bexar County. And this is just a plain, no big deal sand. This does not have very much, if any, clay content to it whatsoever. And that's really kind of a geological fluke in the way Bexar County was developed. Here is Somerset. This is 20 miles. And that is Sandy Oaks. This little guy right here is left over from the Pleistocene period, because this used to be beachfront property thousands of years ago. And here it is. This right here is where the beach was in Texas, I don't know, 18 to 35,000 years ago. And this is really close to where Sandy Oaks Olive Orchard is. And if you go just 20 miles north, different age completely in our geological development. And this is, I lost my cursor. This is where Somerset is. And this is that clay sandy soil. That other area is just plain sand. This is an illustration that I made for a different presentation, because this is technically potting soil. But this is what the Somerset area looks like. You have this sandy clay soil on top, and then you have this thick regular clay soil, like see much of Bexar County, on the bottom. And it's deceptive because people think, well, I have a sandy soil and it's going to drain, but it really doesn't. And when it does drain, it hits this clay soil and it just forms like a little lake right there. This is a video that I made of that soil. This is that Somerset clay soil, Somerset sandy clay soil, and the water hits it and it's just not draining. And it's not draining because the sand's there, but so's the clay, and the clay is absorbing that water as it goes through the soil. And this is like 20 minutes later. It finally over here has started to reach the clay soil. This is 20 minutes, and it's still stuck in that sandy clay soil. So here's what the far south side Somerset area looks like. You have this red sandy clay soil on top of this clay soil. If you add compost to this soil, this is what it looks like. This is beautiful brown soil, and it functions completely differently because I made another video, and this is not a good video. I couldn't figure out how to do it better. The topsoil is that same Somerset clay soil, but I added compost to it. And you will see as I add water to it, the clay soil's down here. And there you go, here comes the water. Look how fast that water goes through that sandy clay soil. That's because the compost has been added. It makes the soil function differently, and within seconds, it's already down at the clay level. That's what compost does to that sandy clay soil for a lot of Bexar County. This is a video I made for, let me turn this down. Let me turn that off. This is a video I made for a previous presentation on the clay soils. This is the clay soil that most of us have, and it comes in these clumps. And those clumps are what our flowers are trying to grow through, our turf grass trying to grow through. If you try to plant vegetables, it's trying to grow through these clumps of things right here. Let me see if I can get a good picture of it. This is it. This is our clay soil, and it is thick, and that's what our roots are trying to grow through, which is why sometimes we have plant failure. This is you're gonna have to put up the audio. There's gonna be two audios going on because I can't mute it. This is compost added to the clay soil, and it real easily breaks up, which is what compost does to that clay gumbo soil. It breaks it up so that the water can filter through more easily, allowing you to grow deeper roots and healthier plants. Let me see. This is the native soil for the far north side. Again, this is an illustration, but this could almost be my yard. It's built on limestone, and you've got this real shallow, rocky limestone soil. This is out my area, Bandera and Tetzel. They're doing some construction, so I ran over there, took a picture. Look at this huge pile, this huge limestone rock. And this is the soil. Look how thin that is. And it's full of rocks. Here's another example right here. Here's the limestone. And here is this real thin layer of rocky dolomite soil. It's not a bad soil. It's just so thin. And here's the challenge. When the builders come in to build our houses, they scrape off whatever soil may be there, and they bring in whatever they feel like. And so this is the topsoil for a subdivision in North Bexar County. My wife and I took a little trip to the subdivisions, which is what I do in my fun time, to see how they're building their homes, how they're treating their lawns. And I thought, you know, that can't be, because there's a pile of this stuff, and it's basically just caliche. So I went over across the street and took a picture, and that's what they have. This is the topsoil they're using. It is that just plain no good caliche, and they put this Bermuda grass on top of it. And so in a few years, these people can be calling David on the WOAI Morning Gardening Show asking how come their turf grass is dying. Well, it's dying because it's been planted on caliche. And what they have to do is they have to add some compost to that to make that soil halfway decent. If you want to know more about your soil, you want to know the specifics, here's the website. You contact Texas A&M, and you go through the process that they ask that you go through, mail them your soil sample. They can tell you specifically what you have and what you're missing. To improve the soil, there's a couple things. One, you can aerate it. This machine right here, if you want to rent it at Home Depot or Lowe's, is about 325 pounds. Be kind of difficult to put in the back of your smart car, but it might work. The challenge in using an aerator like this, it's heavy because it's forcing these little core aerators to go down into the soil. You just have to be aware of where, if you have an in-ground watering system, where the heads are, or this thing's going to tear it up. This is a picture I got. I can't remember where I'd give it credit. It has to do with Texas A&M someplace. This area down the middle was aerated. And the aeration allows the water to go more deeply. If there's fertilizer or compost, the fertilizer or compost go more deeply. On the sides, these areas were not aerated. This is aerated, but that's what aerating can do for lawn. For most of us, it's something you'd hire out. I don't know why you'd buy an aerator, and you'd better be about 30 something and a weight trainer on the side to try to handle that thing. So besides an aerator, we use compost. Compost also helps to conserve water. These couple slides are from Lynn and from Anna. From the 1980s to right now, the population of San Antonio Bexar County has increased from 1.1 to 1.8 million people. But we're one of the leaders of water conservation because we've decreased our consumption by 25%. And 2050, which is not really that far away, we're expecting 50% more people. So we're gonna have 2 million people living in the San Antonio Bexar County area. Our water use, 50% of our water use in the summer, like right now, because it's like 190 degrees outside, is used to try to keep our grass semi-light brown. And 25% of our water use is used annually on our lawns. So compost, what is it? It's a decayed plant or animal material. It can be leaves, limbs, dead bushes, dead trees. Animal material is manure and dead animal carcasses. What it does is it helps put nutrients back into the soil because of microbes, and I'll show you that slide in a minute. What it does in the soil is it breaks up this gumbo clay soil we have to allow for better drainage. And down around sandy oaks, it helps to form aggregates so the water doesn't drain quite so quickly. If you want to get really geeky about it, there are some bacteria working away in composting. This is your psychrophilic, picture of your psychrophilic bacteria that prefers temperature of the pile around 55 to 70. Psychro is where not psycho, psychro is the Greek for cold loving. This is your meso meaning middle, meso loving philic bacteria. The temperature of the pile is around 70 to 100. But where a compost pile really does its best work is the thermo, meaning warm loving bacteria at about 113 to 160 degrees. And here's what's going on. The organic materials here, and these little fungi from various temperatures, they're eating that stuff. And it's sort of, not to be crude, but it's called the poop loop. These guys eat what they need to and they discharge the rest. The bacteria eats what they need to and they discharge the rest. The bacteria is eaten by protozoa, the bacteria eating each other, the fungi are eating bacteria, the fungi are eating each other. And as they get rid of what they need, the stuff that they excrete comes out in the form of nutrients that the plants absorb into the roots and helps the plants grow. So here is my compost pile, not real fancy. This is the fall leaves. This is cedar elm and crepe myrtle and red oak, whatever else happens to go there. And this is 4 by 8. It's 2 foot high. And I don't worry about it. I'm planning on using it in the spring. And in the spring, it gave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It gave me 13 wheelbarrows full of compost. That's what this pile did. And this is just for my yard, just for my trees, adding in some coffee grounds and some banana peels and apple cores. But it gave me 13 wheelbarrows full of compost to spread around my yard. This is, again, another video I made. This, and I sort of set this up, so don't get too excited if you're a compost freak. These are little pucks from Starbucks where they had their coffee. But what I do is I let that thing sit. When I think it's ready, I get my shovel, dig in there. I screen it through a 1/4-inch cloth screener that I made, a 1/2-inch cloth screener that I made. Run it through there over a wheelbarrow. And that stuff here can be thrown back in if I want to. I'll just let it sit for another few months and it'll break down and become compost. If I let it sit for another month or two, it can become a type of mulch. And here's what I'm looking for. This is what compost should look like. You don't see the watermelon, you don't see the tomato plants, you don't see the orange, you don't see any of that stuff. It's all been broken down, and this is what I want to put into my yard. This is another type of compost which you can buy commercially. This is biosolids. It's the stuff that is flushed down the toilets, and it is mixed over at New Earth with various sticks and limbs, very high nitrogen, and it's fantastic for lawns. My lawn has been incredibly beautiful ever since I've been using it for the last 2 or 3 years. So I'd like to thank you for your contribution to my beautiful lawn. So here's a tale of 2 yards. This is my backyard. I haven't done anything in my backyard. I landscaped it, but I really kind of ignored the soil. And here you see these dirt clods. And these dirt clods, when you get a big one, looks like this. This is that clay. Let me stop this. This is that clay soil that we have just in Bear County. It's what the builder brought in. And you can see the darkness, the gumbo here. This is just basically garbage clay soil. And this is what my turf grass is trying to grow into. And that's why the St. Augustine sometimes, especially under stress, and I'll show you a picture in a minute, looks brownish, because we're asking our St. Augustine, your petunias, your marigolds, you're asking them to grow in through this soil. This is my front yard. This is whoa, sorry about that. I can't mute it because this box is in the way. Wait. There you go. Now I can. There you go. This is my front yard. This has been amended for the last 3 years with compost. And as I dig it up, look at, there are no clods in there whatsoever. The soil is very broken up. And that's why my front yard, before I did this, I only watered it for 2 weeks out of the year because the water was so well used, and the grass is able to stay green. But what I'm doing this year is I'm renovating it for separate reasons. So here is my backyard. I mowed it last night. This shows you what compost does to a lawn. I started to renovate my backyard from the bottom up, and I'm doing it in segments. And you can tell here where I put compost. This is a leaf trail, so ignore that. But you see how green this is right here? That is where the compost has been. I haven't composted this area yet. So it was 107 degrees, 105 degrees. This lawn, and you see it over here, this is under stress. I could water it. That water is going to go maybe a 1/2 inch deep if I'm lucky. This area, if I water, it's going to go 4 to 5 inches deep. This is a visual effect of what, or visual image of what composting can do to a lawn. So whenever I have somebody ask me questions about lawn, the first thing I can tell them is, look, if you'll compost, that'll make a huge difference. This area, the green area, this is 107 degrees, and it was composted back in the late spring. This area has not been composted. You can tell it is definitely under stress. So we've amended our soil or our beds, whatever, with compost, and now we want to protect it. And that's the role of mulches. Mulches protect the soil from the wind, from drying it out, from the sun, from beating it to death. Mulch also holds in water, and it helps prevent weeds. Weeds grow because they get rooting in the soil and they get sunlight. But if you have mulch there, the weeds can't make it to the soil. So if they manage to sprout, they try to sprout, they don't get the sunlight they need. But if they do manage to sprout roots, and they do manage to get some sunlight, they are so easy to pull out because they're in the middle of mulch. Mulches help maintain a stable environment from wind, sun, and erosion. Years ago, pine bark mulch was the flavor of the day. Everybody went out and bought it. because it looked absolutely beautiful, but it's bark. Bark is not designed to absorb water. So when it rained, your mulch ended up in your neighbor's yard, and they were very appreciative of that. Pecan shell is sort of like that. Pecan shell is an absolutely beautiful mulch, except it's a pecan shell, and it just doesn't absorb water. So if you put in pecan shell mulch, you have a beautiful pecan colored area. But if you have a good rain, well, it's going to go someplace else. So we like shredded mulch because it absorbs the water better. Double shredded is best, and I'll show you that in a little bit. The idea in mulches is this year's mulch is next year's compost. And really, as hot as the bad as the weather is here, it could be that your compost last spring, your mulch last spring becomes your compost this coming fall. But generally speaking, this year's compost mulch, now I get those backwards. This year's mulch is next year's compost. Some people like colored mulches. The colored mulches, from what I understand, are organically based. They're okay for the various yards. I can't think right now what they are. They're soy based. The ones I saw at one time are soy based. They really come in two colors, red and brown, and depending how they mix them, it comes out black. It's sold in bulk, which you can get at places like New Earth, Buckhorn, Stone and Soil, and Gardenville. And there's one more, but I can't remember what they are right now. Or you can buy it in bags. If you get bags, you can get specific ones like cypress. If you want to get pine bark, and you can get them in commercial. There's also free mulch over by the airport, and I'll talk a little bit about that right now. This is single shredded, long pieces. It's not really attractive, but it might be useful if you're using it for a walkway, or you don't really mind the look. You just want some mulch. This is also available at the airport. It's free, but this is commercially bought. This is double shredded. You see the pieces are a lot smaller. There's a lot more fine pieces down here. This absorbs water the best. It really looks a little better. So we suggest getting this double shredded mulch to put into the yard. This is what the airport, this is what the city has when they collect their bulk pickup, their brush pickup, and oops, they shred it. This is shredded once. And so you see some pretty large pieces here. And these are going to take years to break down. And I put this picture here specifically because the challenge with the free mulch that the city has is you don't know what's in it. So when I went out there, got this sample, they had this yellow plastic stuff in there. You can get metal in there, you get glass in there. It's free. You just kind of have to be careful as you go through it. Ted Ritchie will tell you to make sure you take a pitchfork of some sort or a hay fork, because a shovel is just not going to cut through that mulch very easily. So single shredded or double shredded, and we suggest double shredded. Double shredded native. Native means it is made from the things in this area, oak trees and the bushes that grow here. It's not pine trees. It's not going to be aspen trees. And so as they break down, they're providing nutrients that the trees and the plants around here are used to. Mulch affects the temperature of the soil. This is in my yard. This was done, I don't know, within the last month, where the sun is hitting the soil directly. This is 90 degrees. So it's like 92 degrees. This is taken at 6 o'clock in the evening. The outdoor temperature is 90. Here is the bare soil temperature, 90 degrees. I walk to the other end of the yard where I have mulch. This is the bulbine where I have the mulch, and you will see that it's 80 degrees. That's 10 degrees difference within probably 100 feet on the same yard. That's what mulch does. So imagine your plants trying to grow in this heat or trying to grow in this heat. This heat, this direct soil, the sun's going to be able to evaporate that water more easily. The wind blowing through, which we get in the summertime all the time from the southeast, is going to really be able to dry this out. But here, the soil is protected by the mulch. So just sort of reviewing this, understanding our soil, for the most part, it's going to be heavy clay. Improving our soil means if you can aerate it, great, but really it means incorporating compost. You don't have to dig up your yard, just spread it on top. The compost will work its way down through your soil. When I showed you my front yard, I've never dug that up. I've just put the biosolids on it and it's done the rest. And if you can, use double shredded native mulch to protect that soil that you went through all that trouble to make. Here are some websites. I'll make this PowerPoint available if you would like to look at it and study it or look at the websites. So a little bit of a break here. I ran across this. I thought it was kind of cute. This is Mickey and Minnie Mouse. I don't know where it is. And the guy said, I don't know what to expect, but I didn't know it was this. Mickey and Minnie Mouse are out sharing a cigarette on their free time, I guess. I don't know. So there's a little bit of a break. So let me get a drink of water and I'll start on the next part.
Bill, can you take a question?
Yes.
We have a question about soil. Somebody asked, and how do soil conditioners work?
I would have to look at the bag. Soil conditioners are just, to me, again, I have to look at the bag. So I will say that compost, it functions like a soil conditioner. Compost is probably going to be cheaper at the bulk yards. Soil conditioners, it depends on what is in them and what area of the state they've made it for. Is it a soil conditioner designed for Houston, which is very acidic, or is it a soil conditioner based for San Antonio, which is very alkaline? But if they sent me an email, I'd be glad to research it and get back to them. That's the best I can tell you on soil conditioners.
Thank you, sir.
All right. The best soil conditioner that I think is compost because it is native to this area. Compost because it's native to this area. It works incredibly with the soil. I tried to give you, a visual demonstration of how it worked with the red sandy soil. I showed you my backyard. There's very heavy clay, and that was simply compost. There was nothing fancy about that. All right. The second of the earth kind basics is putting the correct plant in the correct location in the correct soil, which we did to each other, which we did just now. And the idea of putting the correct plant in the correct location also means in proximity to each other. So this is what I do for fun. My wife and I went driving around, found this house in a brand new subdivision. And spacing. These are two hybrid live oak trees that will grow probably 40, 50 feet tall and 40, 50 feet out, and they are 15 feet from each other. If you're an arborist, you'll notice it's also poorly tied. We're not going to go there. And they planted Bermuda grass. So what's going to happen is these trees are going to grow into each other. They may rub up against each other, which will encourage the development of oak wilt because the wounds the trees create. Probably what will happen is either the limbs here or the limbs here are not going to fully develop because they're going to be running into each other. So these limbs are going to grow this way. These limbs are going to grow this way. There will be some hodgepodge in here, and this grass is going to die. And they're going to call David Rodriguez some Saturday morning and say, I don't know why my Bermuda grass just died. Dave's going to say, what kind of trees do you have? And this is why. The spacing is just really off. I understand they put Bermuda grass in. Well, they have two trees because some sort of city ordinance. They could have picked something better than oak trees. But this Bermuda grass is just not going to survive. So spacing, the correct plant, the correct location. I got this off the internet earlier today. This is what a tree looks like when it's growing. And look at the roots on how far those trees go out. And then look at this picture. This tree's roots are going to want to grow clear to the other side of that driveway. So as this tree matures, it's going to break that driveway right there, and they're going to get a bump, and they're going to wonder what happened. So I made this picture up. I put together two different pictures, but this is kind of what's going on. And has to be putting the correct plant in the correct location. Here you have your average tree trying to grow, and we put turf grass on it, and you can see those roots are all competing for the same water, for the same nutrients. Homeowners do it. That's just kind of the way things are. But a tree person will tell you that a medium-sized tree needs 1,000 square feet or 1,000 feet of room to really grow. And you go back here, and this is nowhere near 1,000 square feet. Anyway, so putting the correct plant, ideally you don't put grass, turf grass underneath trees, but everybody does it. And I even have it in my yard because the landscaper did it and I'm too lazy to change it out. When you go selecting plants, read the tag. This is a Japanese fern. It tells you, I want full shade and I want it wet. This is a caladium. It tells you how far to space, 6 to 10 inches. The idea of spacing is allows air to flow through it. It minimizes the effect of insects and disease. If one plant has a disease and it's rubbing up, the disease gets transferred really quite easily. So 6 inches apart means you have a lot of color, but you need to watch it. 10 inches apart gives you a better plant. It's just not going to be as vivid color. So here's me with my COVID mask I put on there earlier. I did this on purpose. We went to Disney World and I tried just to recreate it just for fun. And these things are planted at the minimum distance that snapdragons are suggested. And you can see they are virtually on top of each other. And this was, I'm gonna say November, maybe December. When springtime came, this did not look as pretty. I was pulling out dead plants all over because they were smothering each other. So this is if you plant plants at a minimum, you get some great color, but you're gonna have a lot of die-off in it. If you remember a long time ago, they taught us long math and then they taught us short math. We wondered, why didn't you teach us short math in the first place? They said, because long math's good for you. This is long math. I'm gonna take you through the qualifications for selecting plants. Before you even go to the nursery, before you even think about buying plants, here are some things to consider. This is long math, and then I'll show you the short math. You want to look at the temperature the plant will tolerate, the heat and the cold tolerance, the humidity, like that one plant says it likes it wet. Well, that's a fern. It wants a lot of humidity. If you're trying to plant copper canyon daisies, they want it as dry as you can get it. Rainfall is important. What kind of light are you going to look at? The quantity of light, how many hours a day? The quality of light. The wind, how susceptible is it for wind, or are you using it purposely for a windbreak? Soil, we spent a half hour on. The watering needs, I'll touch on that, and then how to deal with pests and disease. So each one, cold and heat tolerance. This is us, Bear County. The USDA says we are hardiness 8B, which means we go down 20 to 15 degrees. So if a plant says it does not like it past 30 degrees, that plant might grow here, but it's not an earth kind plant because it's going to require extraordinary work on your part to keep it alive. Remember, this is earth kind. So that's where we're located. This is a map I got off from the city of Houston, the Houston Chronicle. This is a heat map. This is important. Here's downtown. Here are the suburbs where people live. This is hot. This is out where people don't live. This map is a couple of years old. Here's 1604. And here is way out on the county lines. Here's down around Sandy Oaks. Compare Sandy Oaks to downtown San Antonio. Those familiar with Bear County, this is Browning Lake. It's kind of interesting. You see the little heat islands, Calaveras Lake, just because that's where the power plants are. So as you look at the heat of the plant, the heat the plant can tolerate, where are you living in this whole mess? If you go to buy a fruit tree, and I was talking to somebody just the other day on this on the helpline, you have to look for where you live. This is a 700 chill hour map, a zone. This is 600 chill hour. If you just go buy a random peach tree at the store because you walked into the grocery store and they had a peach tree, you thought, well, I guess I'll grow peaches. If it requires 900 chill hours and you live down by the missions and you only get 600, that tree may grow, but it's not going to give you the fruit that you wanted. And it may take an extraordinary amount of water or fertilizer, and that is not an earth kind approach to gardening. So if you want to plant something like a peach tree and you live out where I live, you look specifically for a tree that requires only 700 hours, maybe one that requires 600 hours because it'll get a few more hours. So plant considerations, heat tolerance, the location. Is it direct sun all day? Is there any shade whatsoever? Are you putting this in a plastic gallon pot? Are you putting it next to asphalt? I have some pictures here for you. I moved my Blackfoot daisy from its nice, comfortable location right next to the driveway. This was taken about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't have the specifics on it. It's in a 1 gallon pot, and the temperature in that 1 gallon pot is 100 degrees. So if you have plants next to concrete, that concrete is really getting hot. It's cooking that plant. Plus it's in a 1 gallon black container. It's going to get on the hotter side. I go to the backyard. It's in the shade. I have my mulch garden there. This is the Texas Superstar green leaf whopper begonia. Look at the temperature. It's 80 degrees. So this compared to this. So when you look at the plant, where are you going to put it in relation to the heat? Humidity and rainfall makes a difference. As I said, I showed you that fern. That fern says it likes it wet. The quantity and the quality and the timing of the light. Okay, I did that. Sorry, I'm going backwards. This is some turf grasses. This has to do with light. This is Raleigh St. Augustine. Raleigh St. Augustine can grow in some shade, not dense shade, but some shade. But it'd really like to have 7 or 8 hours of sunlight. This is buffalo grass. This is Buffalo 609. This does not grow in shade. It wants full sun. This is my neighbor's house. They're the second owner. When we moved here 25 years ago, the original owner put in all buffalo grass. All of this is buffalo grass. He did, because buffalo grass was supposed to be very water efficient. You would need to water your lawn, but he didn't pay attention to the location. So you can see the buffalo grass follows the shade. Where there's shade, this is just some sort of weedy ground cover. And where there's sun, that's where the buffalo grass. Even up here where there's shade from the house, the buffalo grass doesn't grow. Where there's sun sneaking over the roof, there's where your buffalo grass grows. So where are you locating the plant? Wind, Lou Kellogg will tell you that it's windy outside. You need to protect your tomato plants because the wind, the tomatoes are not going to do well. But sometimes you might be using a shrub for a wind break. And so you might want to consider the effect of wind. Soil we talked about, but now we're talking about watering needs. Here's where we are. And it kind of breaks it down specifically in West Bear County going over here. We're looking at 30 to 34 inches of rain. If you live in far West Bear County and South Bear County, you only get 26 to 30 inches of rain. And yeah, let me see. I'll get there. So how much rain does your plant need? If your plant requires 50 inches of rain, it might be able to grow here, but it's going to require a lot of supplemental water. And that does not make it earth kind friendly for this area. It really kind of makes it earth kind adverse. So the idea behind earth kind is growing plants that grow here on the rainfall that we get with absolutely minimal supplement. Our 30 to 34 inches of rain comes like this, virtually nothing. Well, almost 2 inches January, February, March, and all of a sudden May, we flood. June, we flood. And just like this year, July, it's 107 degrees. And I don't know how much rain we've had this year. It's been very hit and miss. Native plants and well-adapted plants, they're used to this. The plants that grow in Indiana, that grow in Spokane, Washington, they're not used to this. They want that consistent rainfall. So the plants that are native and well-adapted, they're used to these spikes where there's no water whatsoever. And then all of a sudden they just get deluged. They use water more efficiently. So an earth kind plant is going to be a plant that is well adapted for this area, that understands in its own way how the rain works around here. So here's my yard. The color differentiation is really because of sunlight more than anything else. The challenge here is this grass is St. Augustine. It really, this time of year would like, for about 14 weeks, it's going to want about an inch of rain or an inch of supplemental water, or an inch of rain. If we get it, we're not getting it. So if I add 14 inches to the 34 inches we normally get, that's 48 inches of rain going on this oak tree. This oak tree has been here for 30 years and it's used to getting by on 32 inches. And I'm saying, well, lucky you, I'm going to give you 40 inches of rain. And then people wonder how come they have trouble with their oak trees. And so that's kind of a challenge. It's just part of being working in yards. People like to have turf grass. I asked they not put this in, but the builder put it in, and I was traveling around the country too much. And so my goal for this year is to re-landscape this. It's been 20 years, but I finally retired. Re-landscape this, get rid of some of this turf grass, because this turf grass wants more rain than this oak tree would really like to have. So then pest and disease. And pest and disease, I'm going to cover later on in the third segment of the earth kind presentation. So I'm going to go, here's the short math for you. Earth kind is a plant designated by A&M as earth kind. It's primarily trees, shrubs. There's roses and some flowering plants. Here's the website, Aggie Horticulture, tamu.edu. Just type in earth kind, Texas A&M. Here's what the front page looks like. You'll go down here and you'll click, I added that arrow. You'll click on that. Excuse me. A&M suggests that you select plants that are rated 8 or higher. So you'll say, well, let me click on that. So you click on that. And here's the state of Texas divided into regions. You can type in your zip code if you want to, or since we're in section F, you can just click on the region F, and it says Hill Country and Central Coast. If you know the common name of your plant you're looking for, type it in, put in your favorite azalea plant, it's not gonna show up. If you are the super nerdy, geeky type, you can type in the scientific name and impress everybody at the next dinner party that you'll have after we all get vaccinated. At the bottom of this page is this right here. Show all plants for the region, which is what I did. And here's the first page that comes up. Indian paintbrush, ash juniper, and lacy oak. Well, let's do the lacy oak because I have one in my backyard. Here's the common name, lacy oak. If you click on there, it'll take you specifically to a lacy oak page. For those of you who like using the Latin, use a scientific name, there you go. What kind of exposures want? This thing wants full sun. Earth kind index, it's a 10, which means the lacy oaks love to grow in this part of the state. If you plant it and you plant it correctly, a lacy oak is going to give you an absolutely beautiful shade tree. This is an ice plant. This is one I have growing in my yard. When it's blooming, it blooms a beautiful purple. It's a succulent type plant. It's growing in a perlite vermiculite mix and has a beautiful purple flower, but it's an 8. And so Texas A&M says, you know something, that's a good plant. That'll look nice in your yard. It's a pretty succulent, has a real pretty sort of star-shaped burst purple flower. Sorry I didn't get it in bloom. This is a flame acanthus, which is, these are all from my yard. Flame acanthus is a 10, and you can see the beautiful red flowers. That's Pride of Barbados in the background. They also have earth kind roses. This is a souvenir to St. Anne, which is hard to get. That's why I got it. It's a beautiful, very pale pink rose. Here it is up close. It has some fragrance to it. It's not knockover fragrance like some of the hybrids or grandifloras, but has a nice fragrance to it. Beautiful pale. This is a Duché, and you can see it's this beautiful white rose. These are earth kind roses. A&M planted these in their trial gardens up in the Dallas area, McKinney area. They got them established, and they did not mess with them. They didn't put powder on them. They didn't spray them. They left them alone, and they grew on their own. And so this is what these plants do. The challenge they've come across, though, is rose rosette is absolutely destroying these plants, but that's a separate talk. After you go through the earth kind, if there's not enough plants for you, there's a Texas superstar, which includes trees, shrubs, flowering plants, but also has vegetables, herbs, annuals, perennials, and perannuals, which is simply annual perennials. Here's what this is the old page, and I meant to bring, I ran off the new booklet. It's really a cool booklet. It's pretty thick if you want to pay a few dollars to run one off, or find if you can get one free someplace. But this is the front page of the Texas Superstar. You click on one, we're going to click on this Whopper begonia, and here it tells you, it gives you the Latin name, it tells you all about it, it tells you how tall it can get, how far apart they spread, and if you want more information, you go down here and there's a superstar page, and they have pictures of them. They tell you everything you could possibly want to know about Whopper begonias. Again, it's a Texas superstar plant. And here's mine I grow in my backyard. This is the bronze leaf superstar, and it's in a pot. This is the one I took the temperature out of earlier. This is another Texas superstar. This is a Turk's cap. It comes in red. This is the Pampurier. It comes in pink. My understanding is the pink is a little bit more shade tolerant. This is David's trio. He said, you can't grow these, he can't help you. This is the Go Bells. This is the Esperanza that grows here. This is the Firebush, and this is the Pride of Barbados growing in my backyard. And Dave says, you can't grow those, he can't help you. But these are Texas superstars, and they grow down here just beautifully. These things I planted, and I never water these guys, and I never water these, and I never water these. They get what they get. These are some annuals that are Texas superstars. This is a zinnia, profusion zinnia. This is that cupcake portulaca, rose moss portulaca. I can't remember specifically. Here's another flame acanthus. Those are Moy hibiscus. I'll talk about some other presentation. Here's your Coravincas here and here. And in the background, they're not blooming yet, is the African marigolds. That's a Texas superstar. If that's not enough plants, if the earth kind doesn't give you enough, and the Texas superstar, all those plants don't give you enough, then the Bexar County Extension Service has plants, and they can go down through deer resistant, perennial plants, all these things right here for you to take out. You just click on one of those links and they'll take you to that specific page. This one even includes everything so far, plus it includes turf grass. So I clicked on the perennial plants for South Texas landscapes, and it takes me to this page. Here's a clear picture of this page. And here are the plants that are recommended by the extension agency office in this part of the state. And here's a yarrow, which is not on the other recommended list, but here is what it looks like in my garden. For those of you who are propagation people, you see one plant here, you see one plant here, and you see another plant here, and I'll do that when the temperatures get a little cooler. This is a Blackfoot daisy, and there's another just going absolutely crazy, loving the weather here. If earth kind's not enough plants, superstars aren't enough, if David doesn't give you enough, then go to the SAWS page. You get this right here, saws.org. Here's a garden style page, and they have even more plants for you. Sometimes they'll even give you coupons to help you buy the plants. And if that's not enough, then there's native plants. This is skullcap. This is the pink, and that's the purple skullcap. The native plants, there's a native plant society, and you just have to work your way through their website and find out what they consider native. So here's some plants. This is a beautiful, this is the lipstick, salvia. This actually changes colors throughout the year. It's all red, and then it turns red and white, and it turns white. So throughout the year, you actually get 3 different colors coming out of it. This is another Texas native, but you have to grow your own. This is, and that's my third favorite. He's my third grandson. This is pecan mulch. This is absolutely beautiful. I put it in my daughter's yard. Then when it rained, well, it's not there anymore. But this is her earth kind yard that I planted. The tree was already there, and I didn't trim it to make it look pretty for the picture. But this is an earth kind rose. This is a Sam McFadden, Rose of Sharon. This is a flame acanthus. You can't see it, but back here is a Henry Dewberg daisy. This is a mystic rose. Over here is a lipstick salvias. This is your Blackfoot daisies, and these are various other daisies, chocolate mint daisies, Eagleman daisies, four nerve daisies. So just a side note, when you get plants from the nursery, here's those African marigolds I got. They come in these containers. Those things have been sitting in there. You don't know how long, but they're sitting inside. They're planted in peat moss, and peat moss by nature repels water. And the temptation is to take these things home, pop them out, put them in our soil, and water them. And then in a couple of days, we wonder, why have they died? Well, because this peat moss is repelling water the best it can. Plus, you're putting it in dry clay soil, which is absorbing any water there is anyway. So what David suggested one time, which is what I did for these. Oh, and here you see how root bound they are. Look at that. These things are so root bound in that peat moss that they just can't get the moisture they need. So what I do is I filled my wheelbarrow up with water. That's a couple inches of water in there. And I sat those marigolds in there. I separated them by color so I know what's going on. And they sat there until this was wet. When they were wet all the way to the top, then I was prepared to put them into a moist soil. And so far they're doing just absolutely fantastic. But if you put this into a dry soil, there's a real good chance that those plants are going to die relatively soon. That's not going to be earth kind, because you can be putting a lot of fertilizer and putting a lot of water on there trying to keep them alive, which really you could have avoided if you just pre-soaked them. So here is the Earthkind website, your Texas Superstar website. If you're interested in roses, here are some. The place is, you can get them at the local nurseries, but Antique Rose Emporium also has them. Saws, go on their website. Here are the recommended ones from the extension office here in town. The native, that's a whole nother discussion, but just go to the native plant right here, their plant website, and look through theirs. Here's the Garden Saver coupons. Here are some additional plants that put out by the city of Austin, if you're kind of curious about plants that might work. This is a nursery up in just outside of Medina that has, the reason I'm putting them out is they have their plants planted in a very earth-kind way as a demonstration garden, and you can see quite easily how the plants look with minimal rainwater. So if you select the Earthkind, is getting the right soil, making sure you've got a good mulch to protect that soil, then getting the correct plant, which is the plant that is adapted to our heat and to our fluctuation in water and our limited water, and putting it in the correct location, under trees if they need shade, in full sun, away from concrete. And we'll cover the rest of these later on. And so I'm so confused right about now. I tried to leave some time for questions, and I've got 4 minutes on my clock. So
your first question, Bill.
yes.
For those two live oaks that were planted so close together, could
Yes.
they dig one up at this point and replant it someplace else?
Yes. That, you know, if this is a brand, hopefully you're not watching that, you're getting a headache. That's what I would do. I would pick one of these two. I would stay with this one. This one, and I don't have, that's my tree presentation, but I can promise you in 5 years, it's going to start buckling that concrete right there. This is the guy I'd move. And if nothing in the backyard, I'd put it in the backyard. And I'd let this one grow, because this is sort of their front yard, because here's their driveway, that's the neighbor's yard. I would keep this one. I'd get rid of those tie thingies. What happens is people leave those there and the trees actually grow around them, and it'll strangle the tree. So anyway, but I'd keep this one, and in my perfect world, I'd get a smaller tree, but this is what they got. So let's go with what they got. I'd keep this one. I would maybe professionally call a tree company and ask if they could move this to the backyard someplace, because yeah, they're gonna cancel each other out, and they're gonna kill each other, and this is gonna create all sorts of problems over here.
All right, thank you. Next question. You talked about you're going to be removing some grass. So the question is, what's the best way to get rid of grass?
Depends on what you're doing. It depends. I am redoing my yard because I have my backyard long and skinny because I'm on a cul-de-sac. And so the watering is kind of insane, because if I put it on too hard, I'm watering over the fence. And so I want to consolidate my turf grass. So I am digging this turf grass up at the top of the hill, and I'm transplanting it to the weaker places where it's a little thin on the bottom side of the hill. So the way I'm getting rid of that is I'm transplanting it, which is kind of cool to do, because you learn about propagation of turf grass, which is neat because it's saving me a lot of money, because the top hill I know is floor town. But otherwise, you either dig it out by hand, or you use something like Roundup. It depends on what you're going to do there. I am transplanting it, so as I dig that up, I'm putting compost back into that area that I'm digging it up, so that clay soil doesn't sit there. The compost is working on it right away. So like I said, it really kind of depends on what you're going to do at that area.
Okay. And then a final question, is there any turf grass that is earth kind other than the buffalo grass?
No. Well, turf grass, the answer is no. There's a lot of grasses. You can get decorative grasses. There's lemongrass and there's Napier grass and princess grass. Those are decorative grasses. But as far as lawn grass, what we'd call lawns, it's only going to be buffalo. And there's two kinds. There's density and there's 609. And man, that stuff is expensive. And it can be walked all over because buffaloes walked all over it. But it wants full sun. Other than that, the other grasses, they're not really earth kind. You're not going to find them on the earth kind indicator. But if you have good soil, my front yard, and it's a different presentation. I watered my front yard a couple years ago for 2 weeks in August. That's the only water I gave it. And it was green the entire year. And I did that as a test, really for a presentation, because the soil out there is so incredibly rich that any water it got, it used very efficiently, and the roots of the turf grass in the front yard go as deep as they can before hitting rock. So the best way to make turf grass earth kind is to really use a good compost that breaks up that soil. And then it kind of depends what kind of turf grass you're looking at.
And is there a recommendation for how much and how frequent to add compost to your turf grass?
I'd say twice a year, in the spring, early spring, and then late fall. It's not really recommended now for one reason. It's 100 degrees outside, but compost tends to be hot. And I forgot to insert that slide. I bought some compost and put a thermometer in it, and it was 140 degrees. So if it's 98 degrees outside and you want to shove around compost at 140 degrees, it kind of makes you sweat a little bit. So the idea is early spring. Here you can do it in February because it really can be pretty decent. February or March. And then I will be doing my compost on my yard again. Probably last October was hot. So I'm going to say November. It doesn't need to be very thick. It can be thin enough. Just make a little pile, get a rake, spread it around, and it'll take care of the rest.
All right. Any other questions? If so, add them to the Q&A box. Otherwise, thank you very much, Bill. We greatly appreciate this wonderful knowledge.
Well, you're very welcome. I hope it was meaningful.
All right.
Hey, Lynn, can I ask a question since I can't use the Q&A box?
Yes.
Bill, since you're kind of a soil guy, this is Muriel, sorry. If compost, okay, good. If compost is in a bag, comes in a bag, any idea how long it basically stays good with microbes and such like that before it, quote, goes bad, for lack of a better word?
No, I don't know that.
Okay.
And to me, there'd be too many variables. Is it stored in a warehouse? Is it the top bag sitting out in the sun? It's sort of like when you buy turf grass. That top one, like right now, is going to be pretty dry, but you get a few layers down, all of a sudden it has a little bit of moisture to it. So I don't know how long it lasts. What I do know is these piles out in the bulk yards are 140 degrees, and the microbes are working in there. That's what those thermophilic guys, they absolutely love that stuff.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Did you take over the thing? Or do I have to stop sharing?
You have to stop sharing.
Where is that stop sharing?
You've been unshared.
Okay.
All right.
We have one more question for Bill. Somebody posted one more question for Bill.
Okay.
They'd like to know more about biosolids.
Biosolids is the stuff that we flush down the toilet, and it is collected and treated or dried out on the far south side of San Antonio. in their treatment plants, and then is taken as a sludge to the New Earth facility. I don't know if Gardenville gets it or not, but I know New Earth does because I was there when it was unloaded. It's a remarkable fragrance. And then they mix it with things they've shredded. They shred pallets out there. They shred trees, limbs, bushes, grasses, anything is brought in. It's very high in nitrogen. It can be kind of on the hot side. It's physically very hot, but it's also, since it's so high in nitrogen, it's a hot product to put on the ground. It can be used in, and David will tell you, it can be used in vegetable gardens, but it just sounds kind of yucky, so people don't do it. So I put it on my turf grass, and it's the only thing I'll buy. So thank you for making my yard so beautiful.
And where does one go to buy the biosolids?
The biosolids are available at all the bulk yards, and they may all have different names for them. If you just ask for biosolid, they'll know what you're talking about. They may have some other technical term for it, but basically there's manure-based compost and there's biosolids. If you say, I want the biosolids, they'll know what you're talking about.
Great. Thank you very much.
If you have any questions about this video, please call our Bexar County Master Gardener helpline. If you'd like more information about the Bexar County Master Gardeners Association, please look at our website. And if you'd like to know more about the Texas Master Gardener Association, then please look at their website.